Hey everyone, Damien here, and being a long-time drum teacher and a musician myself, today I want to talk a little bit about the process of learning. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is share what I've learned about the learning process and also what I think young drummers should probably be focusing on when they're first starting out. Let's dive in. So to begin with, I'm going to address a question that I saw on social media recently, and it's a common kind of question that I really think highlights the lack of direction or maybe misconceptions associated with learning and what we should be learning, especially as a new player. So here's the question. I've been learning drums for 3 months and I can already play a few songs. Which song should I learn next? So this is a little bit like being a doctor having to prescribe medicine to a patient. What the doctor's going to prescribe depends on what the patient's affliction is. You cannot treat what you can't identify first, right? And it's actually the same with drums. The best things for you to be learning, whether it's new songs or exercises, it's going to be the things that directly address the areas that you're weakest in. So what do you struggle with? Well, it's actually going to be different for everybody. And as a student, if you don't have a lot of experience playing drums, it's not even going to be easy to know what your problems might be. And obviously this is where teachers are going to become valuable to you, especially early on. Getting a teacher means you're going to have someone there who's knowledgeable, who can point out exactly where your weak areas are. So like the doctor scenario, once you identify the issues, then you can treat it, and then you can improve. And if songs end up being a part of that treatment, then by all means throw them into your practice routine as well. So to be clear, there's nothing wrong with learning songs to complement your development as a player. And if nothing else, it's a good way of getting some metronome practice in. But having said all that, and no disrespect intended, but the white elephant in the room is screaming at me here. If you've only been playing a few months, the reality you need to face is that you're still very much in the beginner phase of your drumming journey, right? Sure, a student with maybe a couple of months behind them could probably stumble their way through, a few beats of a few songs, but whether they realize it or not, the reality is they probably can't play those songs at a level that would be considered performance ready, certainly not to a professional. So as a beginner, and as alluring as it might seem, you've got to resist the urge to move on to new things too soon. I mean, let's be honest, right? Hands up if you thought you were a pretty good drummer after just playing for a couple of months, right? We've all been there. It's only much later on, once we discover how much there actually is to playing drums really well, that we realize we were probably pretty awful back then. But hey, if you're a beginner and you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. I want you to try this exercise out at home. What I want you to do is to record yourself playing a song or an exercise or something that you think you know really, really well. And then what I want you to do is to see if you can stomach watching those clips back, say, a year from now. The point I'm making is we don't know what we don't know, and we all start off blissfully ignorant as musicians when we first begin. What I've learned as a teacher is that most of our improvement early on is actually going to come in the form of increased confidence, not necessarily an increase in outward ability, at least not immediately. Okay? So you may not be playing better, but you're going to be more confident at approaching these things. You're going to be willing to tackle things. You're going to be able to hear things and be more confident that you know what's going on in the music. This building of confidence that I'm talking about is one of the reasons why we think that we're better than we really are when we first start playing, right? So you're going to gain in confidence before you gain in what I call outward ability. And this is a really important point to stress because as we all find out at some point, there's going to be times when you're also going to feel like you're going backwards or you're not learning fast enough or at least not at the rate that you would think that you were learning when you first started. And the point here is don't be discouraged by that. It's normal and we all experience it. All right, so here's a classic for you. Anybody who remembers this film will also remember how the lead protagonist, Daniel LaRusso, he loses his mind because Mr. Miyagi's giving him all this work, but for all the work that he's making him do, he doesn't feel like he's learning anything. And at one point, he actually throws a complete hissy fit because he's convinced that sanding floors and painting fences and waxing on and waxing off and all that sort of stuff has absolutely nothing to do with learning karate at all. But again, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. In that movie, what he's actually getting schooled in is all about building a solid foundation to grow from. And here's where I'm going to put forward some things for you guys to focus on. I consider myself a professional drummer, okay? I've sold drums, I've repaired them, I'm a teacher, I've performed on all kinds of stages with all kinds of bands at all levels, covers, originals, the lot. And I've done this often multiple times a week for over 35 years now, and I'm still going strong. For all my experience, I guess the single most important thing that I've learned, and I learned this very, very early on, is that when it comes to being in bands and playing drums professionally, being strong in the fundamental stuff, not the flashy chops, that's what's going to get you the work. So developing a solid foundation to your playing and spending time on perfecting what you already know is actually going to be more important for the most part than adding new tricks or adding new songs without having that solid foundation underneath you. You've got to remember that practice does not make perfect, it only makes permanent. So you've got to make sure that you're reinforcing the right habits. So let me give you some examples of these foundational things that I'm talking about. And some of these points I actually cover in a previous video, which I'll try to remember to link. So first of all, what I want you to do is to record yourself playing your favorite beat or your favorite exercise. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, doesn't have to be professional, just something that you feel you play really well. And then I want you to listen back to it and ask yourself these following things. First of all, your snare and hi-hats and your kicks and hi-hats, when they're hitting together, are they actually hitting together, like 100% together? Are you sure they're not flamming? Maybe you should listen to it again. And number two, your kicks and snares, are they getting drowned out because you're playing your hi-hats too loud? In other words, are you able to self-mix so that every part of the kit you're playing is being played with the right level of dynamics and volumes? Three, and this is a popular one, are you burying your kick beater against the drum head rather than letting it breathe and pulling that full tone out of the bass drum? And how's your snare control? Are your ghost notes and your accents clearly distinguishable, or is everything just kind of blurring into the same volume? Can you accent hi-hats or the ride, maybe on quarter notes, to help give the kicks and the snares a little bit of extra punch when you play? And can you do all of this keeping in time with a metronome? Okay, so maybe you get the point, but let me make it clearer. If you get those little details nailed down, like really locked down, what you're going to notice is that you won't be looking for new songs to become a better drummer like we saw in the original question, but instead you're going to be a better drummer, able to tackle almost an endless number of new songs. It's great for your confidence and you're going to improve quick smart. So don't gloss over what you think is the easy stuff. Put time into getting this basic stuff right. If you're diligent about it now, the payoff is going to come before you know it, and you're going to be a better player all the sooner. That's it for this video. I'm keen to know, if you're a teacher, let me know in the comments below what advice you give young drummers. And also, separate to that, if you're in a band performing alongside a drummer, I want to know what qualities do you think are most important for your drummer to have. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the content, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.